So, Assalamu alaikum, warmest welcome for our second panel for reflection from Malaysian fintech ecosystem. We had a very successful panel from our Islamic fintechs, member institutions of MDEC. Now our audience is ready for the next stage, how Malaysia instructs and develop this landscape and flourishing environment for those fintech institutions. I would like to start with Ms. Ruslena Ramli, who is the director of Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation. I will use the term MDEC shortly. Ms. Ruslena is an Islamic finance advocate with more than 20 years of experience. Her banking repertoire includes corporate strategy, advising on sukuk bond issues, as well as the development of Islamic banking products. She's an avid speaker at local and international Islamic finance conferences. She brings to MDEC her expertise in Sharia compliant structures and established relationships with Islamic finance communities locally and abroad. Like this organization is also a concrete example of that. Ruslena holds a bachelor degree in accounting and finance and a master degree in Islamic finance from INCEIF. So Ms. Ruslena, warmest welcome. I would like to start with you, with your good self, to set the stage for our discussion. Could you please share MDEC's initiatives for the digitalization of Malaysia's Islamic digital economy? The floor is yours, Ruslena.
Assalamu alaikum, and a warm welcome to all the participants that have dialed in today. It is with our great pleasure, MDEC's great pleasure, to be part of today's conversation. So our sincere thanks to the organizers, especially Fatma from TKBB, who I've known for more than close to 10 years almost. So we are extremely pleased to be part of this conversation today and seeing how we can further strengthen this global bridge between two very strong Muslim nations. I've got a slide that I will share right now and to allow me to share my screen. Fatma, you need to enable me.
Ahmet, Sefa, yardımcı olabilir misin?
Done.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can everybody see my slide?
Yes, maybe full screen. Yeah, excellent. We can.
Okay, so allow me to just give a brief background to MDEC, or Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. So we are the government agency championing Malaysia's evolution to become a digital nation. So our story started way back in the 1990s, where we pioneered the multimedia super corridor status, MSC for short, in support of inculcating technology solutions and inviting the giants, the tech giants of Malaysia, to be part of Malaysia's economy. So fast forward to 25 years today, MSC has now been rebranded to Malaysia Digital, which is the brand that you see in front of you. So under MD status, there are specific goodies that the government gives in support of attracting inbound investments, tech companies wanting to be part of Malaysia's evolution, as well as success stories, and seeing how we can collaborate and onboard some of these foreign solutions into Malaysia's community of companies. Yeah, okay. So imagine MD as the engine. To power this engine or oil this engine, there are 9 promoted sectors, which is the wheel on the left. I am the guardian to 2 of these promoted sectors, which is Islamic digital economy and digital finance. So what is Islamic digital economy, or IDE for short, and how do we differentiate that with digital finance? So Malaysia has been in the forefront or stewardship of the global Islamic economy for the 9th consecutive year. And you can read this independent report by Dinas Standards, just Google that, right? So Islamic economy for Malaysia, it comprises 3 main core pillars, which is Islamic finance. So Islamic finance is a 4 trillion ringgit industry. You've got halal. So the latest stats that represents Malaysia's halal market is 36.3 billion ringgit worth of exports, and it contributes close to about 8% 8% of our GDP. The last sector is called lifestyle. So our millennials pretty much wouldn't know so much what Islamic finance and halal, but they would definitely know what lifestyle is, because that's where they interact. Their social media, your cosmetics, your fashion, how they interact and socialize with their friends are all in this lifestyle sector. So I will be speaking specifically on successful Malaysian tech companies that represent each of these pillars. So the digitalization journey, which is IDE, Islamic digital economy, is the digitalization of these three main sectors. And this is how we want to profile Malaysia in support of further propagating our positioning as a Islamic digital economy nation. So within this aspect, we foresee that Turkey is a key ecosystem partner for Malaysia, because you have your own success stories which we would like to understand and also learn from. So similarly, Malaysia has got our success story. So how can we leverage on each other's strength in support of further propagating Islamic digital economy for the world? Not only in the tech side, there would be agriculture, there will be cybersecurity. There's just so much opportunities that we foresee in light of, like as you can see on the right side, for the Islamic economy alone, for the global, it's a $7.7 trillion industry. There's just so much that we can do together in support of, how we can further strengthen the economic multiplier effect for each country, which could be job creation, revenue, investments, inbound, outbound. And I'll share more in terms of the multiplier effect that's actually currently being recognized by our local government agencies. So why IDE in support of Malaysia's global positioning? We are already number one in terms of our global Islamic economy. Alhamdulillah, we are also number one for Islamic fintech. So our global ranking is on the far right, as you can see here. So we're number one. You've got Saudi Arabia, UAE, Indonesia, as well as United Kingdom. So some of the things that we would like to also highlight, and this is also in support of our panel speakers today, is the mainstream thinking, as well as our community, or our ecosystem strength. So not only is our Islamic banks I would say first market movers in not just banking, in sukuk, takaful, as well as asset management, but the pool of talents and expertise that is coming in is supported by INCEIF and other specific government bodies like IFIM, Islamic banking institutions, in support of creating more innovative solutions for the fintech communities. There are specific initiatives by the government, and I mentioned earlier there would be tax incentives. We give out visas for foreign tech companies. We help facilitate visas for also foreign talents to also be part of our community. There's just so much, and I know I've only got 5 minutes to share, so please do engage with me after this, and I'll share a lot more in terms of the specific details of how we've been successful to also attract the giants of the world to be part of Malaysia's community. Okay, so this is a landscape view of Malaysia's Islamic fintech ecosystem. So you can see, like, wow, it looks so robust. But in actual fact, as at end this year, we managed to grow this Islamic fintech companies to more than 50. It's still an island against the bigger ocean, and I'll show you what that is. So as you can see from here, this is the generic landscape. So technology as a baseline is agnostic. It doesn't matter race, color, religion. It's for everybody, right? But for you to differentiate yourself, and I'm telling this to my agnostic founders as well, how do you differentiate yourself with the millions of fintech companies that serves the whole world? Is Islamic digital economy, because you create a niche in terms of how you want to propagate your products and services, which is in line with SDG, which is in line with ESG as well. Because of the growing consciousness of ethical consumers, IDE provides that alternative solution, and based on commercial reasoning, which is up to the end users to decide. At least they now have an option, right? And to the founders or the tech players, why won't you want to open up your base to the Muslim communities or the more ethically conscious behaviors? Because you then have access to that $7.7 trillion market that I just touched on the first slide. So going back to this, for MDEC as a government agency, we feel demand, which is on the left side, drive supply. Supply is MDEC's tech company. So because we've been around for the last 25 years, we've actually built a strong base of over 3,000 tech companies across plethora of all that you can imagine for digital, whether it's blockchain, IoT, sensors, cybersecurity, we've got it all. And so how can we further strengthen our tech companies' value proposition in support of meeting the needs of the global? And as you know, during the pandemic, everyone has had to pivot to technology to survive. So, you know, whether you're a plantation company, whether you're a property company, whether you're a toll road company, everyone has had to pivot, right? So there are opportunities for us to integrate our technology companies in support of their digital journey. And I'll share some of the success stories in the following slide. Okay, so MDEC's role, right, is number one, to ensure that the community of Malaysian tech companies is a thriving community. So as much as I need to ensure number of tech companies that comes on board, which is the key benchmark to maintain our global leadership, MDEC needs to ensure that the companies that come into the market are quality companies that we can groom to become global champions. And please note, under the MD status, shareholders can be fully foreign, but the minute you set up shop in Malaysia, MD embraces you as a Malaysian company, and you have full access to all the government support that we can offer. So some of the other success stories that I would like to highlight here is if you were in the first panel speaker, you know, Messenger is part of this, and for the micro SMEs, we have got alternative credit scores. So during the pandemic, a lot of these entrepreneurs or individuals, sole props, they no longer have got bank credits. So how can we help facilitate their needs? Because the micro SMEs and SMEs help generate, or they are the core backbone of Malaysia's economy in terms of our e-commerce business. It's just so much in terms of how we need their support to actually churn the economy to grow, to come out from the slowdown that we've suffered during the pandemic. So there is a lot of government initiatives, not just from Bank Negara, but also from Securities Commission in support of how we can integrate tech to help them become better entrepreneurs. So some of the things that I've shared here, so you've got Global Startup, which is an alternative credit score. Castrol on the far right is a startup in UK, which we managed to successfully bring them into the Malaysia's ecosystem, and they have partnered with one of the biggest Islamic banks in Malaysia, which is Bank Islam. Hello Gold, you know, I love the app. No, they are not paying me anything at all for the promotion, but one of the features that they offer is dollar average costs. And as you know, when you first start your career, this is the best value that you can actually offer yourself. But historically, we used to do it manually, you know, so if you invest in equities or you invest in unit trust, you need to watch the prices of what you invest in, and you hope that the following day or the following week, the price of that the products or the stocks are actually lower, so you have better value in terms of your bargaining power, right? So what Hello Gold does is they use blockchain, they use AI as well as robo-advisory to monitor the price of gold. So as low as RM1. So assuming if you can set aside, say, so assuming this month I set aside 500 ringgit, the platform will then do a historical check of the price of gold, and using my money, they will then invest a little bit on a daily basis, or depending on the mechanism of the platform, the price of gold at the lowest point on a daily basis. So that gives me the power of dollar averaging using blockchain and AI. So I don't need to monitor the platform. Let the platform monitor itself to my advantage, so I can sleep peacefully at night knowing that I'm still making money, right? So throughout the year, at the end, with dollar averaging features, you will end up a win-win situation for both for the consumers, myself. All right, so next is so talking about capacity, demand, drive, supply, and seeing how MDEC needs to ensure there is a thriving community. So we work closely with the regulators. On the far left is with Securities Commission of Malaysia, that looks specifically at capital market products. And you know, capital market products, so they govern equities, they govern sukuk, asset management, fund, as well as your P2P, ECF, as well as your digital assets. As you know, just a quick one. So Bank Negara actually looks at financial institutions as well as takaful. So that's a slight differentiation between Bank Negara as well as SC. So we are one of the ecosystem partners for SC in support of cultivating, innovation for Islamic Sharia solutions, not only for local communities of Malaysia, but also across the global channels in the world. And some of our key ecosystem partners also include Islamic Development Bank. And as you know, they are the gatekeeper to 57 OIC nations. So the opportunity is there. Turkish fintech companies, Malaysian tech companies, in support of further strengthening the IDE agenda for the world. On the furthest right is with Bank Negara Malaysia. RAIF stands for Royal Award in Islamic Finance. So historically, it was to give recognition, So one of the key models that we use, and in Malaysia, we've got a lot of female leaders that have done an amazing job to help profile gender equality in terms of market leadership. So Tan Sri Zeti was one of the key main founders for the Royal Award in Islamic Finance as her role as Governor of Bank Negara Malaysia. So over the years, it has then evolved. So last year, they wanted to make it a little bit different, and they started this accelerator program. Of the top 10 finalists, 9 were MDEC IDE companies. So 9 Malaysian companies, 1 is an Indonesian company, which I am personally trying to court to be part of the Malaysian community, because for Malaysia to become a global Islamic digital economy, not only does it have to comprise of local Malaysian companies, but also foreign. Only then can you make it global, right? And we're giving so much incentive, support in trying to help facilitate development of local talent foreign talent into Malaysia's communities. The middle one is a matching grant by the government. It's a 4 million matching grant in support of disruptive solution for Islamic fintech. So as you can see, there is a lot of initiative by the government, not just in MDEC, but across the other government agencies, SC, Bank Negara, all trying to propagate the Islamic digital economy agenda. All right, so what's happening currently in the space is, of course, our digital banking landscape. So this will revolutionize how we are going to consume products and services moving forward. If you were in the earlier session, Wilson, the president of FOAM, Fintech Association of Malaysia, also highlighted this. There were 5 licenses to Islamic. So MDEC is, of course, partnering with the potential players in support of, number 1, how can we onboard the supply of tech companies in their digital journey. So as much as possible, I will inform my stakeholders, don't try to reinvent the wheel. We have existing tech companies who are global champions, award-winning, and as Malaysia, our 30 million Malaysians are not going to get us to unicorn, right? So we need the support of market access. We need the support of local players to onboard their solutions to help scale the Malaysian companies as they progress to become, from pre-series to Series A and eventually become listed entities. So these are some of the things that's happening currently on the ground. So just going back to the digital banking framework, if you were to have read it, it's the main key messaging coming from Bank Negara is financial inclusion and social finance for the underserved and unserved. Excuse me. So during the pandemic, we categorize our people by the M40s, which is a certain category gap in terms of their disposable income. And then you have the B40s, which is roughly about 3,000 to 4,000 ringgit a month. And then it's the lower category. So a lot of the M40s have not dropped to the B40s, and can you imagine what's happening to the B40s, having lost their jobs, not able to have access to financing, let alone security coverage for their takaful and premiums, right? So collectively, as a government agency and the regulators, private sectors are now working together in support of how we can further strengthen our baseline of economic drivers for us to move together as a nation. So under the shared prosperity vision, our mantra is no one is left behind. So similarly, this is something, these are the things that we would like to further propagate. Okay, so how do we differentiate conventional and Islamic? Of course, under Islamic Bank, the differentiation will be our zakat as well as wakaf. So zakat is a 3.6 billion industry as of collection last year, and then wakaf is a 4 billion industry based on the latest numbers that I saw. So I give you an example. So in Selangor, which is one of the biggest state in Malaysia, the collection alone was 900 million as of last year. And as you know, zakat, it's a gift, right? When you help support all this asnaf, the people in need. So how can we mobilize some of this financing in support of fintech, financial technology? Because a lot of our founders are already supporting financial inclusion and social finance. So alhamdulillah, we have been successful to showcase companies with some of the Lembaga Zakat Selangor. So the success stories is example Global SciTech, which was the credit behavior that I spoke to you earlier. So some of the programs that the Zakat Selangor produces is entrepreneurship. So how can we further strengthen the entrepreneurship programs and converting the individual from a receiver of zakat to become a giver of zakat? And that is the process of disposable income. So, from 2,000 ringgit, if I were to help give this individual 2,000 ringgit, and help support, extra machinery for her to become a better baker, a better sewer, we can enable this individual to then strengthen her disposable income to 6,000 ringgit. So Matt Cash earlier has got a specific success stories that actually touches the same thing. From 2,000 ringgit, through her intervention in Matt Cash, she has now helped a single individual entrepreneur to grow her disposable income to 8,000 ringgit, and further engage with Nuraizah, the founders, and how her platform have support. And that's just one success story. She's got a lot more under her portfolio. Okay, moving on. So apart from SC, of course, Bank Negara, and I said earlier, so you can see again, I'm repeating my story, which is social finance and financial inclusion, because this is so core in support of how we want to further strengthen Malaysia's economy. And as you can see here, some of the key KPIs is mainstreaming our tech solutions in support of social finance. So what this means is, so how can I mainstream Matt Cash? Connect her to, say, example, all the Islamic banks, because all the Islamic banks have to pay zakat, right? So if some of that zakat money can be funneled into her platform, not only do you help her scale, but also gives her the opportunity for us to track. And as a government agencies, we need to track, how is technology intervention really helping the well-being of our local people. Okay, secondly, of course, you've got the takaful, and I'll touch maybe in the second session as we go into the panel discussions in terms of the success stories. Okay, just very quickly. So this is the landscape view of the halal industry. So we are at the cusp of revolutionizing our halal industry. There's still a lot more to be done, but what is it? Baseline is, you can see in the second one here, you've got the halal sector. So as Malaysia, we are one of the global leaders as exporters of our solution, as our products and services. So how can integration of MDEC's tech companies make these companies stronger, more seamless? And I'll give you an example. So historically, for a local company to certify their products to our local certification body called JAKIM, it can take anywhere between 3-4 months, but I have got a tech company that can do it within 2 weeks. So that helps the turnaround of products into the market faster. So on top of that, so JAKIM recognizes 84 certification bodies in more than 45 countries. So what the tech company does is they plan to onboard all these 84 certification bodies guidelines into their platform to serve those local communities as well. So, so the name of the company is Kohalal. I've got a few, Kohalal and Holistic Labs, and I'll show that to you later. So how can we help collaborate, some of these integration of tech solutions in support of strengthening the ecosystem of the communities across all the economic sectors? So this is some of the success stories. So you've got Holistic Lab, which I just spoke to you about in terms of further strengthening or shortening the turnaround time. Sini sana is a blockchain industry that looks not only in the traceability of halal, but also they do carbon footprint, they do ethical labor conditions as well. And they've been winning awards even in the States in support of further strengthening the value proposition. iTrace is a local company. They've signed an MOU with the China government. So what China currently wants to do is they want to have a repository, a mothership of repository of all the halal ingredients that comes out from China. So how amazing is that, right? So how can we help strengthen? So it's a Malaysian company that's helping the government of China in providing this service as well. Then, of course, you've got Surinai Commerce. So they were one of the first market movers in support of digitalization of the Malaysia's halal market, and currently working together with IDB for the digitization of the halal market in total. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much. And I'm happy to take on questions and further engage with our speakers, Dr. Kinan and also Dr. Moutaz. So back to you, Fatma. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Ruslena. That's like a building block system. I mean, before the first panel and now your reflections. I mean, that's very, insightful reflections for how you build and what is the current status of fintech ecosystem in Malaysia. That's very, heavily and widely involved partnership with all the members, like university level, institutional level, private sector level. That's really inspiring for all of us. To get some lessons or some best practices, how to build an ecosystem for fintechs. From our audience, if you have any questions for Ruslena now or later on, please, raise your questions and drop your question to our chat box. I will ask my distinguished panelists at the end of the panel. So, Ruslena kicked the discussions, for revolutionizing ecosystem from different perspective. Now, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Moutaz Abojeib, our friends. He is a senior Islamic fintech advisor and director at Islamic Finance Advisory and Assurance Services, short IFAAS. Dr. Moutaz is a senior Islamic finance expert. He has more than 15 years of experience in finance research and consultancy in different jurisdictions. And also he is the chairman and co-founder of Islamic Fintech Leaders Forum. In September, he invited me also to that forum, and with great pleasure, I joined and benefited a lot in KL, in Malaysia, this forum. He acted as advisor for many fintech projects. Now, Dr. Moutaz, first of all, warmest welcome to those discussions heavily on Malaysian landscape. How do you see the Islamic digital bank revolutionizing, this transformation for Malaysia's Islamic banking landscape? I wonder your reflections as who is actively in the industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sister, for this, for inviting us also for this very nice and fruitful discussion, inshallah. I think, mashallah, Sister Ruslena has covered, very much in a short time. She did a tremendous job by covering and showing how basically the ecosystem in Malaysia works. And I think mentioning about the banks, Sister Ruslena highlighted very quickly that, for digital banks in Malaysia, it has been set, the message which has been set by the regulator is to support the B40 or the unserved basically segment. So basically, I would say the model which has been chosen for Malaysia is to give a mandate for these banks, not just to do a digital banking services and digital banking offerings, but to have an impact. So the idea is that those institutions, those new digital banks, they shall serve the unserved, right? So they shall complete the offerings of the traditional banks. Of course, this is a very challenging, would be for these new institutions, but at the same time, it creates an added value which is very good for the ecosystem. In terms of the impact on the economy or on the banking landscape, of course, if we look to the regulations, we see that traditional banks can, to a certain extent, or almost, they can do all these digital offerings. So traditional banks, they are by law, by regulations, they can offer digital services. They can do the same offerings almost, right? So, but what has been recognized over time, and this is a common over all countries, right? You know, traditional banks, they have a legacy system, right? So they are trained and used to do their businesses in a certain way. So unless they see some kind of a push to go for a digital services, they will still develop at a very slow pace, right? So when the regulator opens something new, like I say, like, okay, there will be new competitors in the market. So traditional banks, they will pick up this message and they will see, oh, now we need to make it a fast move right now. And we have already seen this in the market. So without naming banks, but we have seen at least two or three during of the traditional Islamic banks in Malaysia. They started heavily on offering the digital banking services, right? They established something new, sort of a window, a digital window to push to accelerate the process. Of course, all traditional banks around the world, including Malaysia, they have a digital agenda, so it's not like they don't have it. But definitely, the way how I see that the current movement and allowing digital banks to operate in Malaysia, that's sending now a message that you need to accelerate this process, and the banks are picking it up. So now it's really now for me, I am a supporter of competition and market discipline rather than regulation. So I like the idea that, you know, the market will see this, there is a competition, they will start develop themselves accordingly. So right now I'm expecting a more competition in the market. We will see how those banks will try to create an impact out there, I would say. And then the good part now, the competition is not about having only a new digital services, but how they can make impact. So different banks now, they are looking into different areas, whether gig economies, whether responsible finance, SDGs, etc. So they are looking into how they can make this impact. So try to build up tailor-made some kind of products, target new segments, and get into the unserved economy. And I'm assuming, I mean, it's not an assumption. In fact, we can see it now in the market. There is a progress, and there are a lot of more attention to these areas. So it's up to everyone, to the whole ecosystem, to collaborate and to work together into how we can. So yeah, so I think it's now also we need to have some more, or maybe engagements also from academia and R&D. Because this is an area that's needs a lot of development, because how you can measure such impact, how you can ensure that what you are doing is in the right track, is really a challenging. And I would say for a new digital Islamic banks to start with, such ask, like they need to ensure that their products are financially sustainable, but at the same time making an impact. It's not an easy job. So I really embrace the work and the efforts of all these newcomers to the market, and I wish them all the best. But it is a challenging ask, and I see now a role for academia to play in this. And as mentioned by Sister Ruslena, Malaysia is lucky to have I would say a very dynamic and complete ecosystem where academia is involved and directly work with the industry. And INCEIF is one of the institutions that's prominent in that aspect. And then we have with us also Dr. Kinan with iConnect. I think he would like to add something maybe on this digital banks and how a collaboration between the researchers and industry and academia can work into advancing this area.
So, Dr. Moutaz, thank you very much for your sharings from the industry perspective. Now you give the floor to Dr. Kinan, who is our very long-lasting close friend, who also one of the colleagues who opened the door for us, for Malaysia. I mean, like Ruslena and yourself, how you interact and open the door for discussing mutual cooperation areas, and we are enjoying those cooperation areas with INCEIF University also. I would like to introduce the audience, Dr. Kinan Salim. Dr. Kinan is an assistant professor at INCEIF University, and he is also an Oxford visiting fellow in Islamic and sustainable finance. He works on integrating financial inclusion, social and sustainable aspects in fintech and digital finance applications. His research and consultancy focusing on designing frameworks, strategies, and provide capacity building for innovative policies, products, and platforms for Islamic fintechs, digital banks, financial inclusion, and sustainable finance. Dr. Kinan, I would like to also raise the same question for you, but from academic perspective. How you see the Islamic digital bank transformation revolutionizing Malaysia's Islamic banking landscape?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Marhaba. Thank you, Fatma, and all our participants for having this nice and interesting discussion. So basically, let me start with what we see digital banks doing and really revolutionize the banking landscape in general, right? So you see digital banks have started already in many countries, and actually it bring more, I would say, convenient and access for the customer, and allowing them to perform many of their banking tasks, their financing tasks online and seamlessly. Now, if you see this changing, this dynamic change, it led the customers or led to the increase on the use of online banking, digital banking services, specifically during the COVID time. And this trend is going forward. And what we see also, we find that it makes more easier also for customers, not just to benefit more from their current banks, but to switch between different banks. So it creates more competition in that perspective, as mentioned by Dr. Moutaz. At the same time, you look also digital banks that not just adding value from the customer perspective, but also it creates value from the banking perspective, as it significantly reduces the operating cost of the banks, as there is no longer need to maintain many branches here and there, right? And instead of that, the banks, specifically digital banks, they heavily invested in their digital infrastructure. So that's opened the door and allowed banks to have more kind of competitive rates for the customers. Your operating cost is less, so you can actually give better price for your customers. So you give competitive rates and services for the customers. So overall, you see that digital banks have been revolutionized the banking by giving more efficient and convenient, and by increasing the competition in the industry in general. And that make it easier actually for new players, which is very important. It opened the door for new players to enter the market and lead for more innovation and choices for the customers. Now, the beauty of digital banks, that the newcomers to the market are not the traditional banks, right? So we see now currently telecom companies, for example, coming in the picture. We see kind of tech companies coming to the feature. And those specific, when we talk about tech companies, they come up from different perspectives. In the tech companies, the main idea is, I mean, you take example of Google, Facebook, and others. The main idea is like having the customer at the center of the attention of the institution. And then they are really very skillful in creating solutions for the customers, regardless it is like financial, non-financial solutions. So this is their main expertise. And they're bringing this expertise now to the digital banking, but with new perspectives. Now, if we focus more on Malaysia, how we see Islamic digital banks in Malaysia. Of course, as mentioned by Ruslena, And Dr. Moutaz, the central bank has given 5 licenses for digital banks in Malaysia, 2 licenses for Islamic banks, and 3 licenses for conventional banks. Now, I would say, when based on our like talks and discussions with the players, I can see that there are 3 main pillars that we see Islamic digital banking in Malaysia growing, and how they can be a catalyst for innovation and for inclusivity in the financial and banking landscape. The 3 pillars, I would say, if I can summarize is the platform operating model, the AI-powered decision-making, and the social impact. So I've started with the first one, the platform operating model. Now, the digital bank's trying to look at how banks is operating differently. Last time we have the bank where provide, I would say, end-to-end solution from one institution, which is the bank itself, right? But now the digital banking come up with a different idea about servicing the customer, which is coming with a platform model. Platforming model means that you have the platform and you allow the third parties to come to the platform and participate and integrate within your platform and provide the customer the best services. So now the customer is able to get end-to-end services on the platform, but not just from the digital bank itself, but from all the other parties and third parties that are integrated within this platform. So this platforming model actually it facilitates the integration of the banking, fintech, and third parties, and give them the ability to transform the financial paradigm for Islamic digital banking by getting the customers at the heart of the business contact. And when we say that, we are not talking about just the digital bank, we are talking about the full spectrum of the startups that just Sister Ruslena mentioned. We have many Islamic fintech startups. So this full spectrum of Islamic fintech startup, they can come in and participate and integrate their solution within this platforming model. And on top of that, we have now the social finance institution, zakat, and waqf institution. They also can come in and be integrated within this platform. The platform operating model also allows Islamic Digital Bank to build greater customer loyalty and retention, because now everything within this platform, and thereby enhancing client experience and operational efficiency. And of course, it's providing the banking and non-banking services with leveraging on the microservices-based architecture. So we see that the digital banks in Malaysia, they are going toward that direction, the platform operating model. Of course, as mentioned by Dr. Moutaz, for this model, you need more collaboration from the fintech startup, from the R&D part, from the universities part, and from the researcher part as well. The second component for Islamic Digital Bank in Malaysia, actually, that to capitalize on the full, or like to unlock the full potential of digital banking, it needs to be AI powered, artificial intelligence powered digital banking, right? And when we say artificial intelligence, we are not just talking about one function in the bank, but we are talking about, again, end-to-end functions in the bank itself, right? So for example, we are talking about advanced analytics, AI powered decision making for customer acquisition. We are talking about credit assessment. We talk about AI Sharia-based decision-making. We talk about the monitoring and collection part. We talk about the service and engagement. So that goes across all the functions in the bank itself. And actually for that, you need a different AI capabilities, from the NLP part to the voice recognition part, to the computer vision part, to the other aspect of AI. And for this one, you need to have, I would say, a comprehensive data lake. Data coming from payment behavior, data coming from accounting data coming from telecom data, from mobile phone data, from psychometric, from social media data, from geo data, location data, from the public record, from the consumer data. So you need all those kind of data to be available in one pool and make it available for those digital banks to play for it. Now, the first pillar, which is that the platform operating model actually make it easier to bring all those kind of data and data pool and the players to work together. And by that, we are able to unlock new opportunity by mining this data and processing this data to generate insights from this data. And then it can give unique sources other than the traditional sources that we have it right now. The third pillar that we see for the Islamic digital banks in Malaysia, actually the social impact. And this was clearly mentioned and highlighted by the central bank when giving the digital banking license, that the digital banks need to demonstrate their commitment to make and create an impact by realizing the sustainable development goals. So for that, the banks should prioritize the efforts into establish a social impact measurement framework based on the Sharia objectives, Maqasid al-Sharia, and assess and have an adequate social impact reporting tool, which further strengthens the public trust and attract more impact investors and more impact depositors. So for this one, it's not just about like a report where the bank, it's a kind of a CSR report that the bank bring, for example, in the end of the year, but it's more about a plan, strategic plan for the bank from the beginning. What are the targets? And they have a specific KPIs for their social impact and have the tools and have the collaboration for that one. So having these three pillars for Islamic digital banking, we see that Malaysia can actually lead the way in this region, in the Southeast Asia region, and play a very important role to partner with other regions as well to build an international, I would say, culture for Islamic digital banking.
Dr. Kinan, thank you very much. I mean, from academic perspective, those three areas which you highlighted at your last part of your speech is very critical, I think, and very, I mean, from lesson learning, like a lecturing for us. For social impact sites, yeah, definitely, I would highly also consider the importance of impact investing or impact reporting, not just for reporting side. It should be considered at the very beginning of any project, any action, not like a reporting facility. I mean, that's also very critical. It's a mindset understanding, not just a technical reporting. So from this perspective, now we are quite at a deep dive at Malaysian landscape. So I would like to come to Ruslena. Ruslena, we discussed in the first panel success stories from digitalization of Islamic fintech industry. So what are some more success stories you may highlight for digitalization of Islamic finance? And plus, I mean, I wonder your also sharings, reflections for the coming year as a, I mean, what's in the store, I mean, for Malaysia, from MDEC perspective, from opportunities and challenges aside.
Okay, so I'll share with you some of the industry pain points that we are currently facing. So number one, if you were to read, so, you know, Malaysia, we deploy a compulsory pension scheme under the Employee Provident Fund, EPF for short. So during the pandemic, they allowed quite a lot of the members to withdraw their retirement funds. So much so, there has been a huge drain in the retirement funds of some of these Malaysian working individuals who register with EPF, that more than 50% of their members only have 10,000 ringgit when they retire. So you know, so as a government agency, together with SC and Banegara, how can we help support, rebuild their wealth? So some of the opportunities that we are looking in support of facilitating this, of course, is number one, awareness. What are the products and services that are out there? We are currently also collaborating with Pembadanan Nasional Berhad, or PNB for short. So they are they're kind of like the national asset management trust company for Malaysia. They handle billions of our assets. A lot of my money is also pledged into their respective portfolios for investment. So it's key to also see how we can help support integration. So some of the example of tech companies that we're currently speaking with are, number one, I mean, I mentioned to you Hello Go. So what about fractionalized investments in equities that look specifically at Sharia compliant stocks? So it can be, you know, FTSE, London FTSE Stock Exchange, or the one that comes out from the States. So fractionalized investments is kind of like your Bitcoin, but you're actually having a fractionalized investments in telcos, in stocks like Tesla, Apple. You know, individually, I may not have enough to actually invest in one stock of Apple or Tesla, but through fractionalized investments, I can have, or I can become owners of a fraction of that stock. So we're speaking to two main tech companies, and also one of the key players in Malaysia is called Wahid. Wahid is a startup company that started out from New York, who has also got a presence in Malaysia. They were also one of the digital recipients license in UK, United Kingdom. So that's one. The other one, also an example in terms of how to further strengthen your health security, like I said, takaful, and also insurance. There's one company called Senang PKS. So during the pandemic, right? So we've got a lot of gig workers, you know, people who deliver food to our doorstep. So drivers of Grab, example. So literally, you know, the Grab driver needs to go out to actually feed his family, put food on the table, right? So he has to pump in petrol. So he doesn't even have enough money to even, you know, support maybe, you know, rental, let alone set aside money for takaful premium. So what this founder did was they tied up with Petronas. Petronas is Malaysia's key oil provider. So every time this Grab driver comes to pump in petrol, the amount that he spends is then converted to points, which can then be changed into premium packages. So this Grab driver doesn't need to come out with a single cent because it's a conversion of what he's paid for the petrol. But to Petronas is they create stickiness, customer loyalty. You have to continue to come to pump in petrol at my stations for you to earn these points. And to the Grab driver, what's in it for him? I get free takaful coverage. Well, not really free, but, you know, because it's embedded into the package. But to him, he doesn't need to come out with any extra additional disposable income. And that's how we can propagate innovation in support of the key metrics for financial inclusion, as well as social finance for the governments. Yes, those are some of the things that I like to share, Fatma.
Ruslena, thank you very much. I mean, we covered a lot, I mean, about your members and your success stories. Now I want to come to Dr. Moutaz. I mean, we are now start to go to the end of the session. I think now we are ready to discuss about fintech interaction opportunities between Türkiye and Malaysia. Dr. Moutaz, you also based in Istanbul. I mean, from your side, from your perspective, maybe we already have some executed collaboration activities. What are the opportunities for fintech collaborations?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, indeed, at the end of the day, I think any fintech startups is looking to expand beyond the one country. That's for sure, and that applies to all countries. So definitely there are a lot of opportunities for collaborations and between Turkey and Malaysia, and being I mean, being involved in both countries and working closely with the ecosystems. I see that there are a lot of things we can do, and one good thing I would say, very obvious, that both countries are lucky to have supporting associations and active ecosystem players like you at TKBB and MDEC in Malaysia. And Alhamdulillah, I think it's maybe we can share also that we are working on these aspects with we can share this with the startups, that we are working on having something active and some few initiatives, in fact, to connect these two ecosystems. What I can highlight, I mean, I would say at the broader level, both countries, I would say to a certain extent, are looking now to a value creation, right? The regulators and the ecosystems in those countries now are looking into or supporting institutions are looking how to create a value, right, an impact. So this is very clear during the presentation of Sister Ruslena, and also if you look to, for example, the strategy plan which has been issued in English recently in Turkey, you can also see this very obvious. The participation finance strategy document, in fact, consider, for example, the social finance. It highlights social finance, crowdfunding, and tokenizations as a significant and important areas in the fintech. And this is exactly what has been also mentioned just recently by Ruslena. Ruslena highlighted the tokenization, fractionalization, right? And it also a few minutes ago she mentioned also about the social, the zakat, and the waqf. So both countries, I would say, share now a very common interest in making an impact in this in these areas. So that's a one part. I mean, very obvious. I would say highlight an area of collaboration. A second thing is if we look to the ecosystem components, Malaysia obviously have a very good robust ecosystem of regulator framework, having a funding opportunities, having a human capital development, and supporting institutions. If we look also to Turkey, it's also almost looking into now enhancing the same components, right? And if we look to the talents, for example, I would say there are also complementary. Both countries can complement each others. Malaysia has produced, I would say, very strong talents in Islamic finance, and Turkey as well. But also Turkey has produced great talents, tech talents, developers. It's probably around the world right now that Turkey has the most demand for developers, right? Because the developers who has been, I mean, the Turkish developers has been involved in so many international projects. They are working with a very, would say, high tech project. So they accumulated great experience, which, of course, a collaboration between countries can bring this into I would say, bringing more values to both ecosystems. So that's another aspect when we look into the talent, the collaborations between academia, of course, and the industry. And so this is like in general, but of course we can always focus when we bring in a certain area into the discussion. For example, when we are talking about the zakat and waqf, Turkey is well known by the support of waqf, and it's a part and parcel of their industry. Very much it's still traditional, but now they are open up to a new fintech and welcoming new technologies and new innovative business models. Malaysia has already initiated a few business models. So definitely startups who are working in this area, they can bring a lot of value to Turkey market. And similarly also when we are talking about like gamifying, for example, that could be the inverse. Like in gamifying, Turkey has advanced pretty much, and having some super apps coming up with the markets and with created already a big value in Turkish market, also that could be transferred to Malaysia. So there are I would say both way channels can work. If we are looking for example on the ecosystem in Turkey, maybe for Malaysian startups, maybe they know or they don't know. But when we are talking about Turkey, we are talking about like country, it's ranked, I think, the 7th or the 9th globally in terms of number of credit cards transactions. We are talking about a funds of 300, almost 350 million has been collected during 2022, right? In terms of fintech startups. So we are talking about like a very active player and a very, I would say, dynamic also ecosystem. And definitely when we look to the halal ecosystem and when we are looking into Islamic finance, probably the two promoters of Islamic finance today are Turkey and Malaysia. So again, we are talking about also a very common area which can bring a lot of collaboration and between the two ecosystems.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moutaz. Very valuable. I mean, all your sharings was putting some addresses for specific discussion areas. I'm sure that our colleagues from Aim for Startups, they are taking notes. And also we will, as association TKBB level, hopefully, I mean, we will have more and more discussions with MDEC for having specific cooperation areas, engaging these two ecosystems. And I would like to come to Dr. Kinan. I should finalize the panel also, considering the time slot. Dr. Kinan, I mean, you actively engage with Turkish ecosystem. I mean, we are very happy to have you in Istanbul. Also, we are actively joining our programs in Malaysia. I mean, how do you see the interaction opportunities from academic and technical assistant perspective for some concrete areas for cooperation?
Yeah. So firstly, I would want to highlight on two things, very important things. That for Malaysian company, Malaysia Fintech startup, Turkey can be considered as the gate for Europe and the gate for the Middle East. First, Turkey itself has a big population. You have 70, 80 million, right? And then it's a gate for that area. So it's always a big opportunity for fintech startups in Malaysia to scale up in Turkey and scale up to the region, to the Europe and Middle East, starting from Turkey. So I see this is a very big opportunity for the fintech startups in Malaysia. Now, and the vice versa is the same. So for fintech startup in Turkey or for tech startup in Turkey, Malaysia is the gate for the Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a market of more than 250 million Muslims in this area of the world, which is like almost like maybe 20% of the Muslim population of all the world. So Malaysia is the gate for the Muslims in the Southeast Asia. Now, what is unique, I would say, about Malaysian market? Malaysian market is a well-regulated and homogeneous market. So it's very well placed to be a pilot for testing. If you want to test your products out the market, it's a very good place to test because it's easy that, okay, you have your market, your target market is one well-regulated, you know what you don't have surprises. I mean, in the country in general, you don't have surprises, right? So I can see that this is really a very good opportunity for a tech and fintech company in Turkey to come to this region. Now, on other aspect and the R&D part, I believe this is very important. So right now, there's this iConnect initiative in Malaysia where it connects both the industry and the academia. And I believe this can be open as well for industry players and academia players in Turkey to collaborate with the industry and academia player in Malaysia. So this is one of the things that can be also explored. Now, to make this collaboration, I would say, more successful, we're looking forward for more support from the associations, from the regulators. I would say support, it can be in like different areas. One area is to increase the easiness for Turkey fintech to do business in Malaysia and to increase the easiness for Malaysian fintech to do business in Turkey, for example. To have more, I would say, regular conversations and discussions and platform for both regulators and businesses to come from both countries to come and talk to each other, to explore what are the challenges maybe when those fintechs coming forward, what are the challenges that they may face when they try to scale up in the other market. And like just to summarize or just to finish this, I would say that I would get this aspiration from the World Cup actually. So you see now Morocco, right? Morocco had been go to the semi-final, and you see the aspiration and the spirit overall the Islamic world because it's a Muslim countries that make that one, right? Yes, we are talking about business here, but believe me, the same spirit is there. When you see Malaysian people, when they see that a business company from Turkey go to the global level, they are very happy. When Turkish people see like Malaysian company go to the global level, they are very happy. So we should not underestimate this factor and this impact, and we should actually capitalize on this to go further for the collaboration and to build the bridge between fintech startup in Turkey and in Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kinan. I think with this event, we opened the doors. I mean, I'm very happy to see that. I mean, also there are some more and more interaction demand from the participants. So that's our intention, to open the doors for the dialogue. So thank you very much, all my distinguished panelists, your deep and insightful sharings. If you have from our participants audience, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your questions. Most welcome. Then I would like to give this floor to Ruslena to close the session. I wonder her reflections for the panel. I'm glad to have you here. And this is just a start. We will keep in touch and have continuous programs, structured level with different institutions from Türkiye, with a collaboration and interaction with MDEC and Fintech ecosystem in Malaysia.
Yes, echoing Fatma's sentiment. Yeah, so this is just the tip of the iceberg. There will be many more opportunities in terms of our engagement between both organizations and also countries. There will be a lot more showcasing of tech companies, and we welcome the opportunity to also meet up with Turkey tech companies, because as much as possible, you know, there are opportunities for the government to also bring in inbound investments into the country, and also the opportunity for us to connect with your communities to allow partnerships and collaboration. And I think that is the absolute key to move the needle in any domestic country, is the partnership and collaborations that we can work together in support of one ambition in growing the Islamic digital economy of our country. So starting with the baseline of technology, it doesn't matter, we can work with everybody, but there can be a specific focus. I think that would be really, really great, because then you create that niche and differentiation across all the fintech hubs across the world, because everybody wants to be the first. So let's see how we can collaborate with a Turkish company and maybe explore a joint collaboration of the world's first Sharia unicorn to be a JV with both countries. How amazing would that story be, right? Yeah, so thank you again for this opportunity, and MDEC looks forward to engage and proactively work together with your respective organizations. Thank you, Fatma, and Foreign Info Startups for this opportunity.
So thank you very much, Ruslena. Thank you for all, for your time and for your sharing. We'll keep in touch and with different platforms, different organizations to, let's say, we today initiated, but continue dialogue with Malaysian fintech ecosystem. And good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.